If you have actually suffered a life-threatening event and are unable to unblock all those traumatic memories that keep coming back to you in such a distressing way, then this, what I'm going to offer you today, is the right treatment for you. The reason I've decided after so many years to put this on camera so that the world can get a hold of it is that I'm so aware that this treatment is, A, is terribly effective, but B, the most important thing is that there are hundreds of thousands of people like you who actually aren't going to get this treatment. If you just take the tsunami, for example, 200,000 people died. That means there's at least 1 million people suffering, and there's never going to be enough counselors to get around to help you. The other reason, of course, for doing this is that many of you just don't want to admit that you've got a problem, or you don't want to go and see a counselor. And in that case, you can do this in your home, at your own time, at your own speed. And again, I'm also aware that there are lots of people who would actually like to see a counselor, but just don't know who is the right person. And of course, if you go to my website, our association's website, there's a whole list of practitioners, at least for now in the UK, which I know are valid and can help you considerably. The way I'm going to do this today is to divide this into two halves. The first half, I really want to explain to you why it is that you have not been able to block out these traumatic memories so far. And that will also help you understand how the rewind treatment works. The second half will be the actual treatment. In other words, when you go to the second half, I am going to treat you today. Okay, now let me try and explain to you why you've been unable to block out these distressing memories. I know you've been trying. You've had a life-threatening experience, people have, or you've witnessed one. You've been trying very, very hard to put all this behind you. Unfortunately, you haven't succeeded. And first of all, please don't blame yourselves, because it's not your fault. This is what happens, and this is why it happens. Think of your brain and think of an airport. Now, if you fly into an airport, you have to get through guards in order to get into the country. If they don't want to let you in, they can just block you there. And your alternative, the only things that you can think of what to do, is either to create a massive diversion, for example, by saying there's a bomb in the place, or getting someone to fly back in and give you a disguise and hope that you can get by that time. In your brain, there are similarly structures that prevent very unusual events coming into memory. So if it's a pleasant event like Christmas or something, it'll just go into memory. But if you have a traumatic event in which your life is threatened and you have terrible experience, these structures are not happy about this coming into your brain. So, especially into memory. So they're in your brain. So what can you do about it? Well, you have been trying up until now to cover it. You've found lots of ways of covering it, but unfortunately there are so many triggers that can just yank you back, and then you get very upset, very frustrated, depressed, and think, what's the matter with me? There's nothing wrong with you. The thing is, you haven't found the way to put this traumatic event into memory. Now, the rewind technique does exactly that. It creates a temporary diversion, a temporary distraction, and all those traumatic events, the whole thing, will go into its proper place in memory. And there, it will stay. In other words, you will not be thinking anymore about these events. No matter what triggers come on, you won't think about them. You can resume your normal life. You'll stop avoiding things. You won't need to drink anymore. You won't need tablets. You won't need anything, because you are now in control. If you want to bring those memories back, of course they're going to look the same. They're not going to change. But you are now in control. And that's going to make a major difference to your life. So please understand, I can't help you forget. There is no treatment that can help you forget. But what the difference now that I'm offering you, and if you want to have it, is that we're going to take all that traumatic event or events, put them into memory once and for all, and you'll be free of them, but you can recall them whenever you want. The treatment, I have to say, first of all, that nothing is 100%. Our success rate is about 8 out of 10 people. I can't re-traumatize you because I don't know your trauma. I can't introduce false memories because I'm not actually going to talk about anything but how to do the rewind technique. This is going to be a little bit unusual, so follow it carefully. Remember, you can always stop, go back, and look at things. So the game is this. It's about 2 films, one forward, one backwards. And there's only one rule. Now, I want you to imagine that you're in a little cinema all on your own. Sit where it's most comfortable for your eyesight. There's a projection room behind you. There's a big screen in front. Now, there's nobody else there. The first film is going to be about your traumatic event. But before I describe this first film, I need to really talk about the one rule. It's an optional rule. You don't have to follow it. But this rule is intended so that you don't get upset. I don't need you to get upset again. I don't need to re-traumatize you again. So the rule is this. In order to understand it, let me just say to you, have you ever been on a roller coaster? Have you ever been on a boat and felt sick? Have you ever been on a passenger with a crazy driver? Now, whatever your answer is to that, either it's yes or no, I'm going to ask you whether you liked it or not. Okay? But now, I'm going to ask you the same question again, but in a different way. Let's say that while you were on this roller coaster, or while you were on that car, or on that boat, I was photographing. I was taking a recording of you. And you come off that, and you come to my office, and I show you this recording. Now, what I want to ask you is, seeing yourself on the screen, does that have the same feeling as when I asked you, have you ever been in one of these situations? Now, I'm hoping that you're going to say to me, no. And the reason it isn't the same is because you're watching yourself on the screen. And if you're watching yourself on the screen, you're not actually feeling it. Remember when I asked you, have you ever been in one? What happened then? You were back in the roller coaster, back on the boat, feeling sick, feeling nervous or excited. So what I'm asking you, therefore, is in the first film to stay detached. Watch yourself on the screen. Now, the first film is about your traumatic event. Now, I know that if I say to you, your traumatic event, you're going to go straight back into the horrible bits. But this film isn't going to start this way. This film is going to have a good starting point. In other words, it could be a few minutes before, could be hours before, days before, whatever. It's a film. You can cut it and paste it, edit it, so that the film starts with you looking really, really good and safe and happy. Then the film moves on into your traumatic event exactly the way you recall it. Don't start thinking about it now, what ifs, what you could have done, exactly how you're tormented by it in your nightmares, your flashbacks. Just look at it exactly there. And then the film will come to the end. But there's another very important point here. Many people don't actually say what they thought was going to happen as well. Just yesterday I had a guy who came in and a diesel tank exploded in his face. Now, that sounds bad enough. But he thought, when he saw the blood all over him, that he was going to die, and he imagined how he's going to die. So if your process takes you that far, that's also traumatizing for you. So include all that in your first film. So the first film has a good starting point. You put everything in exactly as you remember it, and also anything that you thought could have happened. Once the first film comes to an end, I want you to get out of your chair that you were sitting in watching the film and get into the screen. Once you're in the screen, the film is being rewound at great speed. So you're in it and everything is pulling you backwards, everything is going away from you very, very fast until you come right back to the exact same starting point. Now, for example, if it took you 2 minutes to look at the forward film, I want you to take at the most 10 seconds in the rewound film. It's very important that the rewind is fast. I don't know what you're going to see in the rewound film because it's so fast. You can't see everything that you saw in the first film, but you've got to feel that you're being pulled back. You've got to see everything go away from you. And then at the very end, you've got to see yourself back at the very good starting point. The important thing to notice here is that I need you to do the first film immediately followed by the second film. In other words, it has to be like a loop. There's no stopping after the first film and then thinking, oh, I've done that. You don't need to say anything also in the first film, but please make sure that in the first film you also put in things like sound and smell and people, whatever. And then, as I say, it has to be a full loop when you come back. If you're ready, then you should do this now. Imagine yourself sitting in the cinema, somewhere comfortable, and just prepare yourself and think, okay, the film's starting. It's starting with a good starting point. I'm watching it now. I'm looking at the thing that I normally see. I then get into it, and I'm rewound back to the beginning. I now need to discuss with you a few little things. For example, these are the problems that people have encountered. They're minor problems, but you might encounter this. In the forward film, people say, oh, I can't detach myself. And I say to them, look, I'm only offering you this detachment rule so that you don't get upset. If you are able to watch the first film totally attached, as if you were reliving it, I don't mind, as long as you get to the end of the film. But if you, like patients have said to me, oh, I can't go on, this is too distressing, I can't do this, then what I say to you is, look, this is the last time you're going to have to look at your traumatic event. Look at the film as often as you can. Try and stay detached. I understand that some people feel detached and they feel attached. I don't really mind as long as the first film goes forward. Once you get into the first film, then, of course, you've got to rewind it. Now, some people just don't get the rewind. So let me give you an example. It's very important because some people tend to look at their film being rewound. That is not what it is about. It doesn't work. You have to be in the film gets rewound, you see everything going away from you, you're being pulled back to your good starting point. So for example, let's take an example to try and make this clearer. Let's say it's been snowing and you've been out and you've built 3 beautiful snowmen. You're really proud of them. The kids love it, everybody loves them. You go to the top of the hill, you go on your toboggan, you want to go down the hill, obviously missing your snowman, but you know how sledges are, they're not that controllable, and you end up breaking your beautiful snowman. So imagine that this actually is your traumatic event. You're at the top of the hill, you go down, you break through your lovely snowman, and you're at the end of the hill. So I'm saying to you, okay, we've seen that it was recorded, but I now need you to get into the film. So what I want you to do is to sit on that sledge at the end of the hill and feel that you're being pulled back up the hill again. Now, if this is a film, what do you think you would see? You would see and feel that you're being pulled up the hill really quickly, the snowmen are being rebuilt really quickly, and then you end up at the good starting point, which was the top of the hill. So this is exactly what I mean by the rewind part. You cannot look at it. You have to feel that you're in it. So I do hope that this is going to be helpful for you, and if this isn't for you, but you know it's for a family member or for a friend, please pass this on. I'm really happy that I'm doing this because I've been wanting to do this for years. I certainly hope to reach out to the hundreds of thousands of you who I know are suffering and need help. Thank you.